What's up everyone, Nephilim Seth here, and today I wanted to make a video doing damage tests for light units. So I wanted to use physical light units only since this current ranking event, the boss has magical resistance. And I did it twice with each unit. Firstly without a ring because I know a lot of people still haven't farmed rings. So just to get an idea of what a baseline is, and then also with when recollection field is 3 or more, attack plus 8% ring. And just to also give a comparison and maybe to motivate those that haven't farmed rings to show how much the difference is. For this, I'm only showing the incarnate attacks and how much those do. So always also just to keep in mind that for the ones with the rings, it's not just the single attack that'll be increased. It's also all the charge, assaults or breaks that happen around that while you still have those recollection bars. So the way I did this was I wanted to have max damage. So I used an attack buff from Kirito to get plus 20%, and I used Terraria to do crit damage up plus 15%, and then for some of the runs I used her again to get another 15%, and for a couple of them, like when I was using her, I used the Stacia, the Earth Stacia, to get that other 15% because I wanted to keep her available to use again. And I also did physical resistance debuff on the boss using Kirito's break, and I also did some light continuous damages to the ones that it applied, like the Soulless that gets a high damage off that. So getting into the actual testing now, the first one's with Alice. As you can see, I have her at 7900 attack. So for most of these units, I have a weapon that is their weapon. For this Alice, I have the weapon that came out with Edis, which has plus 12% attack and crit instead of plus 9% or plus 10% that her weapon had. So that would make it slightly higher than otherwise. So that first one did a total of about 190,000 damage. And just something to remember, that the nice thing about this Alice is you do get that extra hit from the dragon. So things like her charge and her assault do more damage and do more break as well. And with this one here that has the ring, you can see the first one did 120 and the second one does 140. So that's about 260,000 total, which is about 70,000 more than it had. The next unit we look at is Admin. So Admin is one of the older units, but if you don't have Kirito or if you don't have another breaker like the Soulless or the Asuna, she is still a very good break unit. As well as something that she has that makes her useful if you don't have the Yuki is on her incarnate she does recollection field plus 2. So if you do still have the rings, you can use her incarnate first to get your bars up faster. So the first attack without the ring did about 170,000. And one other thing I wanted to point out, she has 24% attack because the Imaginarium these older units had the ability to go higher to 24. And with the ring she does about 220 to 230. So next up is the Asuna from the anniversary. So she has 8,100 attack. She has one of the highest, if not the highest, base attacks in the game. Her incarnate doesn't do as much as some because it has a lot of debuffs on it that is very useful besides just the damage. So they did lower the damage a bit, or she doesn't have as much damage modifiers because she does have those debuffs. One thing that's also nice about her, with that debuff, if you do use it as a first incarnate of the turn, then you know that every other attack following that will get that extra boost to damage from applying physical resistance down to the enemy. Next on to Soulless. So Soulless is still very good as a break unit. She can go to enhance mode, which means she does even more damage. And as you can see, my one has 7,300 attack, which is quite high. And the other nice thing about her is that if you need a second breaker, she is probably your best choice as a second breaker to go along with the Kirito. And also to keep in mind that she does additional damage or has a bonus damage modifier on an incarnate if the enemy is inflicted with resistance down. So that's also something to keep in mind. And next I wanted to do Terraria. So a lot of people use Terraria in the spot where when you know you need to heal and you don't want to use a dedicated heal. So it's always good to use her incarnate to do that extra bit of healing. But apart from just that healing, she does still output a very high amount of damage. Maybe not as high as some that do just damage or have additional modifiers, but it's enough to leave a dent. So for the first one, you could see she did about 170,000. And for the one with the ring, she can do about 220,000. So that's also something good to keep in mind. Next up we have Edis. You can see she has around 7,600 attack. And she has a modifier where if the enemy is inflicted with the resistance debuff, then she'll do bonus damage. So it's nice to maybe do a charge or an assault or break before her turn that inflicts the resistance debuff so that you can get that extra damage out of her. And you can see how much she does in terms of her incarnate skill, because she's one of the later units. She has a good amount of attack, and with that damage modifier she can do about 260 to 270,000 damage on the incarnate. Now this is the new Leafa that came out. I have not pulled her, so I asked my friend EF Smith if he could help out. So he did the same damage with the parameters I had and sent the screenshots of how much the damage is. But I just wanted to show off the incarnate skill because it's very nice and just to kind of fit the theme. Her base attack when doing this test was around 7,900. So without the ring, she outputted 250,000 damage, which is a lot of damage, more than I had originally thought. And with the ring, she does 295,000 damage. Now that we've done through those, the last unit for this testing is Kirito. Now I have him at level 120, so he would have more attack stats and his incarnate skill is one level higher than if you had him at level 100. But I think it's still suitable to use for this because he is the main unit that you'd want to get to level 120 for this team if you have him. And with him, I just wanted to point out that he has a super strong incarnate attack. And as you can see, that shows his base without a ring does 300,000, which is already more than every other unit that we've seen with the ring. So do keep in mind that also that extra levels and skill up does help. For a nice damage at the end, you can see with the ring, you can do 400,000 or around 400,000 damage, which is huge amounts. And this could be the difference between getting the top spots in a ranking event. With that, I just wanted to round off the video and just say you can see how all of these different characters play off. I hope you've learned something or picked up on something that you may not have thought of before. Where to use which unit to incarnate with during your ranking event, and hopefully this can help you boost your damage. Please let me know how you thought it was, and thanks again for watching. Until next time.